Okay, great. So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome you all to this webinar organized by eTwinning Europe. I am Roberta, and I am a communication assistant for eTwinning, and I'm very happy to have you all here today and to moderate this webinar. Before we start, I just want to give you some practical information. So the webinar is recorded, and the recording will be available from next week. And also, the webinar will be divided in two parts, so two presentations by our speakers. After the first part, there will be a Q&A session, and we'll do the same also after the second presentation. So if you have any questions or comments, you can post them in the chat, and we will address them during the Q&As. But now, let's get started. So today's webinar is the third and last webinar of the spring campaign, which is taking place on eTwinning Live. If you have not yet participated in the activities, we invite you to visit the campaign page and to find out all the activities and resources we have prepared for you. And the aim of the campaign is to shed light on some relevant topics related to the annual theme, such as sustainable development, creativity, blended learning, but also inclusion. So the focus of today is inclusion in schools, and we are going to talk about it with our two guests, Marie-Louise Petersen and Mariana Smolczyk. I'm very pleased to welcome you both and have you both here today with us. So Marie-Louise and Mariana are both teachers, eTwinners, and moderators of two eTwinning featured groups. Marie-Louise is the moderator of the group Gender Know-How to Stop Stereotypes, and Mariana is the moderator of the group Inclusive Education. And today they will share their experience and knowledge about this important topic, which is inclusion at school. So now, without further ado, I give the floor to Mariana for her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberta. And hello and greetings to everybody from Croatia. And I hope you will all have a nice afternoon and that you will enjoy the topic that we have both prepared for you. So, as already Roberta told you, I am an inclusive education feature group moderator, but I'm also an English and Croatian language teacher, have been a teacher advisor for many years, and also a teacher trainer. And I have been moderating the inclusive education feature group since 2015, and I can proudly say that there are more than 9,500 members. Hope there will be few more after this session. If you are already a member of the group, so happy to have you all here. Thank you for joining us. If you are not, maybe you decide to join the group as well. So as you have noticed, my topic, sorry, I run ahead, is inclusive education and personalized learning. This is also what the group is all about. When I talk about inclusive education, I mean about students with special education needs, students with certain learning difficulties or learning disabilities, but also gifted and talented students. So, but since we are have a certain time frame given to us to talk about 25 minutes. I will try to present the outline as fast as possible, but then again, as clearly as possible for you, and just leave some breadcrumbs for you to join the inclusive education group and just to motivate you and to see that maybe you will recognize yourself as already a teacher who has been trying to doing a lot of inclusion and personalized learning in their classrooms, but also there will be maybe some takeaways after this session as well. So the outline will be something about what is inclusive education, then what is personalized learning, what are some ways of personalized learning in our classrooms. Then again, why do we need to involve inclusion of all the stakeholders? Who are those stakeholders? And then again, what I said in the video, if you have watched the video about eTwinning schools who are which are innovative and inclusive environments, is what is the importance of digital technology in today's inclusive classrooms, which I tend to use a lot, but then again, not overusing a technology, because you have to use it meaningfully and carefully with your students. So let's begin. So integration versus inclusion. There have been a lot of, people tend to defer these two and they tend to maybe confuse the two. So integration would be students with minor learning difficulties or special education needs students who are able to fit the mainstream classroom in an unchanged environment. So they're just integrated into the classroom. They try to do as much as possible. You can either give some extra activities for them separate or not. So that is integration. On the other hand, inclusion, it's an ongoing process. It's a new philosophy in education. It's the system adapts where we adapt to the student, each student in our classroom with disabilities or any learning difficulties, a student who can also be a gifted student, right? A student with various socioeconomic background, migrants in this case, as you already know. So we are trying to remove any barriers if possible. This is why I said it is an ongoing process, because the things are awfully changing very fast. You try to be as good as possible teacher. Sometimes we lack support. Sometimes we don't know many things. That's why the inclusive education group on eTwinning, and we are always trying to be better and try to adapt to our students' needs. When we say inclusion, we want our students to feel welcomed in our classrooms so that there is no stigma toward any kinds of students, whether they are mainstream students, gifted students, or students with special education needs, for instance. So that's why the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, according to the article number 45, uh, states that the whole person approach offers flexible curricula, teaching and learning methods adapted to different strengths, requirements, and learning styles. In a way, this is now the path toward the personalized learning that maybe you have been reading also online. All in all, it commits, the inclusive education commits to ending segregation within educational settings by ensuring inclusive classroom teaching, making inclusion normal. The education system must provide a personal educational responses rather than expecting the students to fit the system. Usually we would always have the student fit the system, but it's impossible. It was never possible. Um, then again, when I say learning styles, you probably all know or heard about Howard Gardner and him talking about different kind of learning styles and multiple intelligences that we all have, right? The most common is logical mathematical intelligence, which can be in a way somehow measured. But the interpersonal intelligence, intrapersonal intelligences, the intelligences where students practice some social skills, emotional skills, this is something for the students to find the best way how they can learn. In my classrooms, I usually have my students do a test on multiple intelligences so that they can, see, okay, so which are my best intelligences, or how can I improve my intelligences? Because I always try to improve my intelligence, of course not the linguistic one. As you have noticed, I have a gift to talk a lot, but then again, there are certain intelligences that we can all try to improve, and we can motivate our students. So in a way, in short, inclusion is valuing everyone, understanding your school community, knowing and understanding the needs of your pupil, understanding and valuing your own culture, and then valuing other cultures, right? So I always tell my colleagues and my students that you should know very well your own culture. That's why you are going to, if you understand your identity, you will be able to appreciate others' identity. Now, um, I'm not going to talk a lot about the poster I have shared here, because you can see that it's a free resource for your classroom, which can be found on this link. And there will be links shared later on, as well as the presentation, and I will share it also in my group, Inclusive Education, for you to explore. We can print this out and put it into our classrooms just to have our students be aware what is inclusion overall. Um, there are challenges to inclusive education, right? But they can be overcome. It's impossible that everything will go like so natural and fluently. No, it's impossible. So the biggest barriers to inclusive education are given on this poster, and it's from the Think Inclusive website. It can be attitudes of teachers and students toward these teaching students to different cultures. It can be physical barriers, you know. If you have a student who is in a wheelchair, you have to adapt your school so that he or she can enter the classroom, or the school. So you have to build these different kind of lifts, and so that the student can enter the school. The curriculum, is it always going to work? How can I adapt my curriculum to fit all the needs of all my students? You know, it doesn't allow sometimes, you know, the experimentation of the use of different teaching. But of course, if you are stick to the universal design of learning, which I'm just going to mention a little bit, if you talk and use a presentation which are both orally and visually for all of your students, then this is possible. Of course, the teachers are mainly not trained, right? That's why we have all of these professional developments. That's why we share good practice examples in our eTwinning portal, eTwinning Live, or in our eTwinning groups. The funding are the worst, I would say, but I hope with stakeholders these can be overcome as well. And of course, our expectations. We want our students to learn. We want them to learn in a familiar environment. All in all, the challenges can be overcome because the outcomes are even better. The benefits is when you have students with special education needs within the classroom with mainstream students, you have this sense of belonging, you have this membership, building relationship and learning different kinds of skills. Students who are mainstream students, they always learn a lot also by helping others. I have this buddy system with certain in certain classrooms. Students form wide circle of friends. They realize each other's gift and talent, developing better understanding of citizenship with people with disabilities, solving real life challenges. Then again, all of them can be each other role models. Whether you are a mainstream student or a SEM student, you can be a role model. Your teaching becomes more creative and challenging, of course. But if you are when you do a lot of activities, you can always recycle them, and you can share your examples and learn from others. So it is a challenge, but it's also being very creative. So now I'm coming to this personalized learning, because in a way I noticed that inclusive education is in a way connected to personalized learning, which is an educational approach, and in a way it has been um, recently popular online, especially because it comes mainly from the American school system. But according to some of the articles that I have read, this personalized learning approach has been also quite popular even in the past, in the 70s or 60s and so on. But it was like, you know, it was always difficult to somehow customize the learning for the students' needs, because that is the main aim. All in all, we want the productivity of our lessons. We have to adapt to students' needs. We have to change different learning styles for our students. We are talking about skills that we want our students to gain by having this personalized learning, and we want to, you know, motivate their interest in different kinds of topic. And of course, the teacher, even though the students is in the central, you know, you can see this cap of a student, even though the student is in a center, right? The teacher is there, the teacher is a facilitator, the teacher is somebody who is going to help. So the personalized learning, sometimes it is said that in a way focuses on student oriented learning, but this is not always the case, because we mustn't forget traditional learning, traditional approaches. It's impossible for me to have my students learn on themselves even though I prepare everything correctly for them, because I still have to give certain knowledge, I still have to explain certain things, and then I give them opportunities to learn extra, to adapt, to show what they have learned, and to do even more things by giving them choices to show me what they have, what kind of knowledge they have gained. Um, Personalized learning in several steps. So it is not, as we mentioned, one size fits all approach, right? So we have to adapt to our students. Students should get a learning plan that fits their needs. It would be great if we could know and notice their strengths and their weaknesses, and in that way adapt and tell them, okay, so this is where you are lacking your knowledge, you should do these things more, and then I think you can learn in such and such a way because you are good at art and you are good at, so take notes by doing, I don't know, doodling, and just make you know those mind maps or something. Some students learn in different ways, so I always ask them, what is the best way, how do you learn, or they realize on their own. Students learn in many different ways, as I have just mentioned, so we have to give them a tempo. It's their own tempo of learning, step by step. Some students will probably master certain skills in 1 or 2 lessons, but for others, it could take maybe 10 lessons. You should give them time. Of course, I know that the curriculum is there for you to go faster and faster. But then again, try to accommodate as much as possible. According to the personalized learning, there could be some short term versus long term planning for your students. And of course, your students have to take an ownership of their learning and of their learning strategies. So let's say a short term plan. I'm an English teacher, and let's say we are learning about present simple, and I just want my short term for a certain student is okay. So let's just focus on you recognizing the present simple tense in the sentences, in the text or something. But the long term plan for him is to try to, by the end of the month or maybe by the end of a 2 months, to try to use it more perfectly, and to write at least simple sentences or like a small postcard or an email. This also depends on the level of your students. Since I teach both students who are elementary at English, but also those who are at advanced level, your focus will be on short and long-term plans as well. Um, Emphasis on continuous learning. What does that mean? It means that you should give students more opportunity to show what has been learned. So that's why this student oriented. So I noticed that a very good remark that the personalized learning is not always students based learning. Well, this is what I think and I believe, and I will show you what I think are personalized learnings in our own classrooms. And my husband, he always asks me, really, do they really do have to do this by themselves? Aren't you a teacher? Shouldn't you teach them this or that? Because I have 2 sons, and he says he has to do this or that. We would have to be taught in school. Yes, there are certain things that you teach the students. You teach them even certain skills. They practice. The more you give them time, they also have to learn how to work in group. They have to learn how to divide collaboration. They have to learn how to divide certain skills. They have to learn how to explore the internet. You are always there, step by step, in the classroom. I do give homework, but believe me, I do not give that much homework. It depends. But then again, there is this blended learning that I'm also incorporating, which I suppose is more common now since we have been in COVID-19 with distance learning. All in all, have your students opportunity to show off what they have learned. You can give them choices. Okay, tell me, we have been reading a literature about this and this. So I will give you some choices. Tell me, you can either make a poster, choose the character, describe how did you see the character. You can make a review of this literature spot. You can maybe write a quiz if you want to test for other students, and so on. You can make a video, like a book trailer of the book that you have read. So even though you do these discussions and debates in the classroom, then you have to give them, okay, now you choose how are you going to show me, what have you learned about this and that. So this is again giving them choices. The most important thing of personalized learning for me is that the students should say, I know and I can. I hate my students say, I can't do this, teacher. There is no can't in my classrooms, or it should be in your classrooms as well. It is, I will try, I will do my best. And then if you are managing, that's great. At least you have tried, you have given your best. Sometimes they even get surprised how much they learned, and how much they are progressing. That's why it's important to give your students meaningful feedback. More on that later on. So I have already mentioned some of these. Personalized learning plus blended learning. So flexible learning space, classrooms. Okay, if you can manage super. If not, maybe in the future. Of course, we don't have all these super classrooms like Future Classroom Lab in Brussels, but it can always be adjusted. Especially if you're having, your own classrooms where students go to cabinet classes, where they come to your classes. Use digital technology. It's there. It works. Don't be afraid and use those that are good for you and your students. Give them choice boards, as I already mentioned in the previous slides. Students work together and for each other, right? They can discuss, they can debate, they can collaborate, they can do project based learning. It can be only for one lesson if you wish, project based learning. It can last for a week. I will give you an example from my classrooms. It was a class who are usually very talkative, and it was difficult for classroom management. The boys were very active and so on. All in all, I wanted all of the students to do a project based learning approach. They had to plan how to travel around the world. They got even a budget about 1 million euros. They had to visit minimum 15 countries, and but and then choose how are they going to present their best tour guide to present to the people who would buy and their arrangements, budget arrangements and holiday arrangements. But what I want to say is that when I gave this project based learning, it was mainly based in my classrooms. I did this together with them. I was going from group to group. I was looking at how are they exploring, how are they researching. Even though they're 16 or 70 years of age, they still don't know how to search the internet. They told me that they have gained so many skills afterwards, because I asked them to give me an exit ticket to tell me what have they learned. And of course, after all of this was finished, they even did a peer assessment on their own work. I would just like to mention that it took almost a month for them to do this because I only had 3 lessons per week. Of course, I wanted to let's say accelerate this a little bit more, so I told them I'm just going to give you 1 more week. So if you are continue learning, go to go to Teams or other our online classrooms, create online groups, put me in the group if you want and I can help you, and so on. So, and this is possible to be done even in remote or distance learning. So everything can be adjusted. You just have to plan it correctly. Your role, I have already mentioned, advisor, facilitator. And of course, personalized learning and blended learning reduces the stigma of any students. Ways of this personalized learning in our classrooms is learning stations. When you create a lot of activities and they just go around, do, make, listen, hear, write. This is very common for English teachers or any language teachers, but they can create something, they can do a quiz. On other one, they can listen to watch a video, make some remarks. So, and then when they finish all the learning stations, you then decide what kind of outcome you would like to have. Project-based learning, I have already referred to it, so I'm not going to mention it. And of course, digital technology and blended learning, meaning your traditional teaching can be interactive, and this can everything that you can do in your classroom, you can even easily transform online. And we have noticed that 2 years ago, with eTwinning, with so much support online from many colleagues and many groups, and especially eTwinning, we noted that teachers are great, resilient. They are training resilience, and nothing can surprise the teachers. Wouldn't you agree? SEN, Carla, means special education need student. So it's like a short, like abbreviation for special education needs student. Okay, good. Key aspects of personalized learning, what I usually have from my colleagues, advantages are here: digital technology, assistive technology, instant feedback for your students, easier ways for you to do the evaluation and assessment. Students are more motivated. There are flexible learning environments. And the most important thing, they develop various skills: soft skills, communication, digital skills, collaboration, and so on. But of course, can we break the myths of our disadvantages of personalized learning? Yes. Do students spend a lot of time behind the screen? Of course they do. But if they are playing games on their mobile phones, they can then also use their technology to for learning outcomes. So not too much student screen time, or yes, Yes and no. I would say that they can definitely learn a lot using, but not, bear in mind not to overuse technology. Our students love to do a lot of independent learning. If you are a good advisor, a good teacher, then you are going to motivate them and guide them. So I wouldn't agree with this. And is it time consuming? Oh, yes, it is. But bear in mind, if you create interesting lessons online, interactive, Kahoots or whatever, you can just recycle them for another class or another class. And you have like an a lot of materials by yourself. Make sure to include the stakeholders, students, teachers, all teachers, pedagogists, psychologists, and everybody else that can be involved, and of course the parents. And what my colleague Donald O'Reilly says, building bridges and joining forces. This is what we have to do for inclusive schools. What are the most important skills that teachers should have in an inclusive classroom? Um, Empathy. I would say this is the most important thing. Teachers, European teachers said this during the Becoming an Inclusive School online course that I managed. So all in all, I think this posters explains everything. Patience, knowledge of your subject. Again, practice patience, kind to your student, flexibility, and other things that you already know as teachers. But I hope these things work for you. Uh, you can test and see how well is it your school inclusive. So just go to School Education Gateway. It is a European toolkit for schools. It's very interesting and easy. I will share the links later on. And you can self-assess your school. And the most important thing that you can always save it and resume later. In order to test your school, how inclusive is your school, you have to log into School Education Gateway. Some examples of questions have been given on these slides, but I'm just going to skip it if you don't mind. And these are some of the things that are tested. It goes from promoting integration and inclusive systems around our school to vulnerable individual groups, to parental involvement, to whole school approach to inclusive system, and everything I have just said in these previous slides. So if you get these kind of results, like everything in yellow, like 100, you will see that your school is doing a great job. And this which is in a way in this one that is in gray, it's something, it's like average of in the European schools. What we don't want is this, right? We don't want this kind of red. So if you can manage to make some progress into certain of these activities and systems, then you come again to the School Education Gateway and do the quiz again, and then see if you have progressed enough. Okay. And now, if you don't mind, I know I have been very fast, but maybe you would be willing to do a mentee. Let's make it a little bit interactive before I wrap it out. So you can either scan the code, you can go to www.mentee.com, and I will just post this 9087 7841. Or you can also see if you can click on this link, mentee.com, and just answer some questions that are connected to our next slide. In this case, I will start using I will share my screen. Just a moment, let me log in. I hope that you are already trying to do these activities. Okay. So the first one, okay, let me see again. Let me see if I can. I'm just going to copy for you in the chat. The link works perfectly. Great. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong link. My bad. It's the wrong link. I will try to do it again for those who are maybe on mobile phones or something. Okay. And now I'm going to share my screen if that is okay. And let's see. Okay, let me just do this. Okay, just a moment. Bear with me. I know I talk a lot. This is it. Okay. Okay, so four of you have already voted, and according to you, how inclusive is your school? You would say that your school is about 3.3, that you think that digital technology, you strongly agree, I would say, or you would agree that digital technology is helpful for your learning and learning of your students, and you use a lot of digital technology. I'm happy to hear that. And how confident you are in teaching SEND students? So it's like 3.5. So I'm glad you are actually great experts already, I would say. So just looking of these examples, and I hope that you are okay, good. So I'm just going to the next slide, if that is okay, because my next, I know, and thank you for this. Which digital tools do you find helpful in your teaching environment for both in-person and remote learning? Good, Padlet. Yes, I would agree. Padlet, it's a great for storing, for collaboration, for giving feedback, or students give each other feedback. I love it. I use it a lot. There is also Linoit, which doesn't have so many features like Padlet. Kahoot, my favorite, or I would say my students' favorite, even though I also like Quizlays. Quizzes are also here. WordWall, very good. Google Slides, live worksheet, learning. Okay, thank you. So those are the most common tools that teachers would use. Thank you so much. I hope our admin and our host has maybe taken some screenshots so I can move on
Sorry,
with my
actually, I took some.
presentation. Okay, just a moment. Okay, so I have to move forward because I think I have already run out of time. But all in all, just to come to closure, digital technology. Use appropriate digital tool, those that are meaningful for you and your students. The tool that best fits your classroom. If that is Kahoot, then use Kahoot. You don't need to use any other. Make sure to think pedagogically when choosing a digital tool to use, because what we want is what is the purpose of this tool, how it's going to help my students, how it is going to help me teach them certain outcomes, so that's why the purpose is important. As you can notice, there are a lot of tools here, right? I can have tools such as some of them you have already mentioned right yourself, and I can only notice that uh, Immersive Reader is the greatest tool for any students with special education needs, but also students who are learning languages. It is an integrated Microsoft tool, and you can find this icon usually in OneNote, Word, Outlook, Flipgrid, Wakelet, for instance, and it reads for the students. And please look into it. I'm going to have sessions and presentations about these kind of tools later on in my group as well. Plickers, great tool. You can only have one mobile phone if you wish, connected to internet, and QR codes that you give to your students, and that's enough. Quizlays, very great for differentiation of learning. Coglit, love it, great for young learners, but you can even it can even work in the classroom with secondary school students. Microsoft Office tools. If you have Office 365, use everything. If you just know Microsoft tools, that's great. Flipgrid, love it. I have used a lot of it in distance learning. It can you can record yourself, audio, give even a slide sharing. Perfect. So in a way, I hope you have been using some of these tools. If not, check them out later on. Some takeaways. Make sure to give your students valuable feedback. You can give them always exit tickets. It doesn't have to be every lesson, but from time to time. Present your content both orally and visually, as I mentioned. Try to be aware of your students' various learning preferences. We already said this. Try not to think, try not to take things too personally. Sometimes we get tired, and students are this or that. We are all humans, but try not to take them too personally. If the students make you angry or something, that's why practice patience. Try to fit to your students' needs as much as possible. Have a buddy system. Have a student who helps each other, and try to praise the student who does help other students in your classrooms. Try to have the students responsible for the learning, meaningful use of technology, as I mentioned, and just be patient. I know many of these takeaways. In the end, motto of inclusive school should be this: inclusive school is a school where every child is welcome, every parent is involved, every teacher is valued. This is a motto of the Inclusive Education Project, a regional support for inclusive education that my school has been a part of it since 2013 to 2015. And this is something that was like a route where we started to do a lot of changes. In the end, since I'm also an eTwinning ambassador from Croatia, and this year is the Europe Youth Year of the young people, and who are we teaching then but the young people? There will be a lot of engagements and lots of activities and seminars also done by our agency, but probably yours as well. So stay focused, help your students, engage them to maybe do and participate in various activities, because this is we have to help them. They are our future. In the way, inclusion is eTwinning. So if you are all here, then you are already in doing inclusion. You join inclusive education group. I hope you are going to be a part of this group. I have given a lot of useful resources for you, and you will get this presentation, so don't worry. And also, thank you so much. And sorry, Marie Louise, for taking like maybe 5 of your minutes. And in the end, this is a form for the evaluation, because in Croatia we have to ask evaluation for our professional development. So if you would be so kind, um, I would appreciate. I will put it later on in the chat. And I think that's it.
Thank you. Thank
I
you very
think
much,
I'm done.
Mariana.
Are there any questions?
Thank you also for all your advice and examples you gave. I'm sure they were like super useful for all the teachers who are attending the webinar. And I can already see like a lot of comments thanking you for the webinar and the super useful presentation. And also the inclusive motto is receiving a lot of nice and positive comments.
Yes, 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 it is. So I apologize for being rather fast. I hope I was quite clear. I know it was fast, but as somebody mentioned, it was very insightful and fruitful. And I hope that at least one takeaway, if you have from this session, will be valuable. And thank you for joining me and listening to me. I don't know if there are any questions. I didn't notice. I did explain through the presentation what is
Yes, I
the
just
abbreviation of SEN. And anything else? Yeah. Could you show us your multiple intelligent test? Yes, Egle. I will paste some links for you here, and you can test it out for yourself and your student. They are unfortunately in English, but it can help. Okay.
thank you
So
very much.
I'm
If
just going to go
actually
behind the
if the
camera now.
teachers have some other questions, we can also address them in at the end. So anyone just feel free to write in the chat. But yeah, I can see a lot of positive messages and comments. So in the meantime, yes, of course.
Okay. Okay. Then we can stop sharing. Yeah, we can stop sharing my slides, and I will be in the back supporting and giving other meaningful links that you.
Thank you very much, Mariana. So in the meantime, if Marie Louise, you want to start sharing your screen. Okay, I can see you now. Um,
So can you hear
yes,
me?
I can hear you very well.
Uh, hello to everyone. I had some problem with my PowerPoint, so I have to share my screen. So if you write in the chat, I hope that Roberta or someone else will, if there are questions along the way, gather them, because I can't see them when I share my screen.
Yes, no problem, don't worry. We gather all the questions.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I just. So can you see my my screen now?
Yes, I can see it.
I just
It's,
put it on presentation mode. Okay.
Perfect.
So, just Roberta, when do I stop? At 5 or a little bit before 5?
Well, of course you can finish your presentation, so don't worry.
Okay, but I won't. I can speed it a little bit up.
Okay.
Okay, so my name is. Thank you for coming, and so I'm the second part of this webinar on inclusion and focus on gender and sexuality. And my name is Mary-Louise Petersen. I'm a teacher in Denmark and group moderator and ambassador. And this is the group. So in the spring campaign, and this is the theme of the year. This is a quote: beautiful and inclusive schools are designed to engage students from every culture, from disadvantaged backgrounds, with different sexual orientation and gender identity, or with disability. So this is part of this is a quote from the eTwinning theme of the year, which I think is interesting to have in mind in regard to gender and sexuality and sexual orientation. I think maybe later on, because there's not really I've made a Padlet, and in the Padlet I have written A, that you can write what could be better at your school, and B, what is good, what good is done now at your school, and then your hope for progress. And very shortly, my school doesn't have gender-based bullying explicitly written in the policy and anti-bullying. But what I think is good at my school is that we have good sexuality education, and my hope is that we would have this gender and sexuality explicitly mentioned in the anti-bullying policy and in the values of our school. So it's more because when we say inclusion or being sometimes this is forgotten. Gender stereotypes and gender norms are crucial when we talk about inclusion, and gender identity and also sexual orientation, and also sexism and like homo and transphobia, and the fear of femininity, so the fear of what is considered feminine, and then to have in mind what behaviors cause exclusion and what behaviors cause inclusion. This is a poll from the group that I moderate. So these are on sexist language. Have you heard sexist language at your school? Like degrading remarks about girls and women? And yes, the first one. And yes, I've heard it not only from students, but also from teachers. And only one voted, I have never heard sexist language at my school. And you're welcome to fill out this too. And it's published, you don't have to be part of the group, the page. Another thing about LGBTI plus inclusion: does your school take action to ensure that LGBTI students are included? And we have only 2 votes. Yes, we have policy, and it's not my vote in there. We have the yes, but we don't have policies. I voted that one. But 17 have voted no, nothing is done at the time being, and 4 no, nothing is done because it's a taboo. And I think that's interesting too, that it is a taboo in some countries and in excuse me, in some families. Just very short, so we have the difference between the orientation, which is the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and the transgender and intersex, or the plus could be non-binary. So for students who do not feel they are either boy or girl, they feel they are something else, something in between. And this graphic by Sam Killerman is really good because it explains very well, sort of, so that the gender identity is something what people they themselves think, and the gender expression is sort of like could be with clothes or with the hairstyle, and the sexual orientation is the one we are attracted to romantically. That's the heart. And then there is the anatomical and biological sex. So to have these differences. Just very shortly, some facts about LGBTI plus students. There are some statistics that they show that they are more exposed to bullying and hate speech, and many are not able to focus on school because of this, and they suffer from depression and a low self-esteem. They do not dare to show and be who they are, so they hide. So and they do not report bullying because of fear, and they have more likely to attempt suicide than young people their age. And the fact that some they don't show who they are is interesting, because then teachers not always know, they don't really know they have the students who are LGBTI plus students. This is a statistic from Danish, the Danish LGBTI youth, or is it like an organization? They ask students who consider themselves as LGBTI plus, how could the school environment be better and make you feel more safe? And so 55% said that gender neutral toilets would be good if there would be visible flags, rainbow flags, more than half, yeah, and visible signs in the school reminding of prohibition of bullying and homophobic language. And the possibility to change in an individual cloakroom, somebody said that too, and safe spaces where I can be on my own. And only 9% said that my school is fine as it is. And again, this is, of course, these are students who are with an LGBTI background in Denmark who answered to this. I just want to make a little publicity for Iglio, for if you want to have an anti-bullying policy with inclusion in regard to diversity. It deals with the students, but it also deals with the parents and staff. Like we heard with Mariana, we have teachers, students, and the parents are also a part of the solution, and sometimes part of the problem. And this idea that the focus that all students have the right to and must feel safe at school is a good point to have, because that's difficult to argue against. So if you meet as a teacher somebody who says no, it's not important, but then it's difficult to argue against that all should have the right and to feel safe at school. And this again is the fact that you cannot, as teachers, we cannot assume that you know who is an LGBTI student in your class. And again, it's because sometimes they hide, because they don't dare to express themselves. And also because there are many ways to be an LGBTI student and expressing this. And also that we have these gender stereotypes. And so when we have a student who does not conform to the norm, it does not mean that the person is an LGBTI student. So that's another thing as well to bear in mind. Yeah, then I jump a little and talk about something else, which is also in regard to gender and inclusion. And this is gender-based violence. GBV is an expression that I think is good to know. It's as it says here, it involves acts or threats of sexual, physical, or psychological occurrence in and around schools, perpetrated because of gender norms and gender stereotypes, and enforced by unequal power dynamics. So the fact that somebody has more power, maybe they're taller, they're stronger, or they're older, and it's an umbrella sort of expression. So that it could be gender-based bullying, sexual harassment, sexist language, and also sexualized pictures or behavior and intimidating others with this. Like that happens at my school. Suddenly somebody is sitting with their computer and they have found some kind of strange video with animals having sex or something, and then they're showing this to others who did not wish this to be exposed to that. When we talk about gender-based bullying and violence, typically students with norm-breaking behavior or clothing or interests. So like if a boy is interested in dancing or in art, or girls is very much into gaming, because there are these stereotypes about what the interests should be of a boy and a girl, or the way you again dress, then these students can be more exposed to bullying. And especially boys can be very punishing towards other boys for not conforming to norms about masculinity. So these very sort of strict idea of how boys should be or men should be. And then again, sexual harassment, which can be unwanted touching or again the language. And then I want to also mention the what I said before, the sexualized language, which could be pictures, behavior, something that is intimidating for others. And I have sometimes when when I have students doing this kind of behavior or saying something very sexualized, I ask them, could you please go out to the toilet, because I feel like you're taking your pants off now. And then when I say that, some of them get a little bit whoa, because that's also to say them, this is what you're doing to me. And of course it's not really me, it's also to protect other students. And because some of these things are done as a joke, just for fun. That's sort of the classic. I want to talk about a good example from Sweden. And they had a program in this school where, and I'll just say what it ended up with. They have improved grades, in particularly among boys, after having done this project, and they got a calmer and less intimidating environment. And this is actually some years now ago that these schools in Sweden worked with this, but they really took a norm-critical approach in their school. They had especially boys who had this idea, oh, you have to be very strong and good at ice hockey and pushing each other at the corridors. And other students were a little bit, both boys and girls, not feeling comfortable about being around this noisy behavior. And so the whole school worked a lot with new ways of being in regard to gender and stereotypes. And then they did the zero tolerance against playful fighting. So this sort of thing that you can't even push or have fun with fighting. This was also stopping that behavior. Yes. I like to also say something about visibility and the curriculum check. This is from a eTwinning talk that took place some time ago. As you can see, Invisible Women, Gender Bias in the School Literature Curriculum. And I asked the question, do all students feel represented in the literature, history, books, etc.? And this is an English organization who have taken focus on that women are very invisible in the curriculum. And they say that they say that, and this is what I've marked in red, that making the connection between invisibility of women in the curriculum and sexual harassment / sexism. And they claim that because and we asked eTwinners afterwards, and it was in many countries that it's mainly male authors, and the protagonist or the main character in the book is usually a boy or a man. And so and this sort of knowledge and empathy about how does a girl think there is not enough. And so it's important to make this check, because this is also about being inclusion. Do I feel my being represented, and do people learn about how do women think or girls think? I think that was an interesting point. If you want to see this, it's recorded. It's about half an hour talk. Excuse me. A non-critical approach is a way of looking at assumptions in a culture. So at the culture in the school. So it could be investigating the norms instead of the individuals who break the norms. So instead of having the look at, okay, this person is wearing, this boy or this girl is wearing clothes that is different, then saying, what kind of clothes is everyone looking? So what is the norm here? And it's about changing from just tolerating the norm breaker to looking at the norms that create the discrimination and or exclusion. So it's another perspective. So it could be asking questions like, what are the norms here at our school? Is the norm part of the problem? Could it be different? and who has the power to define what is normal. So creating an inclusive environment is, of course, we have already heard now, but some of this, so of course, how can you say it's the same, but knowledge and awareness among staff and students is important. And we have like school policies on inclusion, anti-bullying strategy, explicitly mentioning gender, sexuality, sexism, and then I also write GBV, so gender-based violence, and visibility. So again, in the school curriculum, like I said, role models, posters, school campaigns, eTwinning projects, and supporting students who intervene, who the students who stand up for somebody and intervene when we have teasing / bullying, harassment. And it's also informing and involving parents with the focus on students' equal rights, respect and well-being, which is the common grounds. And I already said that it's difficult to argue against equal rights. Inviting guest speakers and various NGOs can be helpful, that they listen to other people from outside, and to have the focus on the language. So instead of all the time, because each time we say boys and girls, we make them feel that they are from different planets, and we shouldn't talk to the ones from the other planet. So if teachers stop all the time, like we don't focusing on who's from this gender or that gender or something, then we are upholding this idea that it's divided. And again, from tolerance to looking at the norms that make a person feel excluded. And then also and sexuality education is also part of creating an inclusive environment, and of course it has to do with the knowledge part. So I'll just speed up a little. So public spaces like playground, corridors, they are often considered as bullying hotspots because we don't have the teachers always around, and often, not in all schools, but some schools, they are very segregated. And again, what are the norms in these public spaces? To take a check at your playground, school grounds. There are examples from, this is a French researcher, that boys, they are afraid to play with girls because they fear how others would judge them, so they don't want to play, even though they want to, but they don't dare. And then again, does everyone have the right to be here? Can everyone join the activity, or is a certain group and behavior dominating? So to have a critical look at the culture and the norms of the public spaces in the school, and this could be by ensuring a democratic sharing where everyone feels included in the public spaces, and this could be with days without ball games, because sometimes especially the football players dominate the center spaces of the playground. Or you could have rotation, so these group have the center space this year, this is day Monday, and then you have rotations. And it's again about creating spaces for people who don't want to play with balls, and just to have this ensuring of the equal sharing, and ensuring non-gendered activities. And then again, the zero tolerance, even for the playful fighting. There are some films here, and these three films are made. I'll just I'm not gonna play, but just show it so you have an idea. No, I don't think I will. No, I'm not gonna open it. But they are 2-3 minutes films. They are in Danish, but with English subtitles, and they are true stories, and they're about young people who have experienced how it was difficult not to fit into the norms, and they all end up with a positive the story. So it gives hope. It's not about we should feel sorry for them, but it's about what are the possibilities for change and for hope. And of course there are a lot of resources. Intersex is I didn't really mention so much in the beginning, but with children who are born with their sexual organs at birth, where it's not precise to sort of define their gender, and they have been operating, and now there's a movement to stop this so that the children can decide themselves. And there's really a lack of knowledge on intersex. I have met many teachers who do not know what intersex is, because it's extremely, there's a lot of taboo again around this. And again, there's more in the group. I just want to finish off by saying there is, on the 8th of March, I launched this together with another eTwinner from Denmark. This eTwinning project, it's without students, but the idea is to make documentation of progression in this year. So it runs until December on gender and sexuality. So in your country, for instance, if there is a politician or a political party who makes a new law and which improves gender equality or gender inclusion in regard, or say with sexuality, or an individual or an NGO or your school, then the idea is to make documentations about this. Yes. Then thank you for listening. And then I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thank you very much, Marie-Louise. Thank you too for your presentation. So I can see a lot of nice comments for your presentation too, because of course you also gave a lot of useful advice and examples about gender and sexuality in schools. And also from my side, I can tell you that it was super interesting. There was actually one questions that I saw before. So there was like one person asking, based on your experience, if you know if boys usually are more sexist than girls in schools.
That's an interesting question. Those who have made most research on this is an organization called, I'll just write in the chat, UK Feminista, who also have done a speech on eTwinning that I invited once, and it's mainly girls are more exposed to sexist language or and harassment, but boys are too. But I think, but I have to be. It's not that girls do not do sexist behavior. Also, from my own experience as a teacher, what I've seen and heard, and this thing about girls spreading rumors against other girls, things like that. In regard to sex, yeah. So I'm not sure to say, but I would say I would probably think that there will be more boys, but I have to find some statistics.
Yes, and I understand. Of course, it can be like that. I can see also another question in the chat. So Athanasia is saying that cinema usually helps to address issues like this, and she's asking if you know some movies that can be useful also for teaching about these issues.
For sexuality or sorry, sexual orientation. Sorry, I didn't catch sexuality orientation or gender-based violence or.
Well, I would say actually in general, because she's not actually addressing one specific issue. So if you just have like some examples, that would be super nice.
In the group, I really collected different on different sort of themes. So on LGBTI, some films that are on YouTube or public, and then also in regard to sexual harassment. I think the British and Scottish, English and Scottish, have really made a lot of interesting material. And I can also and also with little educational films, like in like a cartoon. But otherwise, in the group I have many links there. I saw somebody write something about some English films who were not there anymore or something.
Yes, it was actually the same comments that
Some kind of webinars from British
British
Council.
Council.
Some webinars
Yeah,
on
exactly.
on sexism or on LGBTI plus or
I'm not sure exactly because
yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. No, of course I know British Council. There's a great page, but I'm not sure about these films. I think that and also have this link in the group that BBC, British Broadcasting, they have also a whole on gender. Like they collect whenever there's something news on gender, they have a special site on that.
okay, that's good to know.
Okay.
So teachers could can join the group and find all these resources. So that's very
Yes, and
good.
regarding the PowerPoint, I'm really sorry about because I had changed it from Google Sheet to PowerPoint because I thought that'd be really smart for this, and then it turned out it couldn't say I couldn't save it, so I have to change it before I can. And then I'll just I can send it to you, Roberta, or
Of course.
and then post it of course in the group
Of
too.
course, no problem.
I'll do that by tomorrow or something.
No problem at all. Well, if also Mariana wants to open the camera again, since we actually just ran out of time, I just want to ask you if you want to share some last words or tips for our teachers who are attending the webinar.
Well, I already said a lot, and I think that many of them have wrote in the chat, and I have just read my evaluation that the motto that I shared, maybe we can have it with maybe a screenshot of all three of us. Let me just find it all in the end. The motto was that inclusive school means everybody should be welcome, that the teachers should be valued and the parents should also be involved. And I think we could all agree that this could be a great summary of everything what we have said today. And I hope colleagues will have gained a lot of interesting insights from us and also great materials. All of these things will be shared, in the group, and later on, as Roberta said, the recording as well. We are doing as best as possible, and just just don't and have patience and try to work, have it at your own pace, and be a good role model to your students. That's definitely one of my suggestions. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and maybe yeah, and
Thank
I
you.
think that this fact that that this annual eTwinning theme has explicitly mentioned gender and sexual orientation, I think is if you are in a school where this is a little bit difficult or in a culture where then it's good maybe to have this, so it's not coming from you but from a more central place. Yeah. Then I just want to say thank you, and it was inspired. It was really nice also to hear to Mariana.
Always
Uh,
fast, always in fast mode. I would just like to say that colleagues have been sharing, and we do hope that from our presentation and from you collaborating in the groups, you will definitely figure out some meaningful projects regarding the eTwinning annual year, the Bauhaus and inclusion and blended learning and the green, because it's so open. And there will be some activities within my group, and I'm sure that Marie will have them as well, where we will have like a project fair. We were just waiting for the spring campaign to finish, where you can come with your project suggestions and just find a partner if you can't find it in the eTwinning Live. So keep up the good work.
Thank you very much for your words. Thank you again for your presentation. I guess now I can actually end the recording. And I just want to thank you again, everybody, also for attending the webinar. And I wish you a very nice evening. And well, hope to see you all again in the